Alright guys, are you ready to see one of the most insanely strong boards that Spyrals can throw out turn 1? And it's pretty consistent, guys. Basically, all you really need is machine dupe. And I know someone's going to say, but what if you draw the other quick fixes? Don't worry, we'll get into that in a second. Basically, that's all you really got to open up with. And this card's a pretty good card since it allows you to get, like, you know, a Spyral gear, and that's going to help you with your Link summons. But basically, you're making it the double helix, and then you're going to use it as a monster to kind of set up your board with other Link monsters. I know a lot of you guys were really hyped up when they announced like the Spy Gal, Misty, and all the other Spyral support, but then no one's really talking about the deck because I think that, you know, this is going to be what makes Spyral so good, is just utilizing the Link monsters because, you know, having the Last Resort gear card, it's a pretty decent card when you equip it to the guy that's got 2800 attack because, you know, that card can then not be targeted, and that definitely helps, you know, your board. But this board becomes even more insane. Now, there's a little bit of icing on the cake with Secret Village of the Spellcasters, but that's not really necessary over here. The main thing that we're trying to do, guys, is trying to make a board that's almost unbeatable turn 1, with the exception of like Winged Dragon Raw Sphere mode. Like, pretty much it's all over for most decks, alright? I know someone's going to say, what if there's a kaiju? You'd have to have so many kaijus that, well, that would kind of break the game because you can only have one kaiju. But nonetheless, you guys will see he's going to equip all this extra stuff. Let's go ahead. His opponent's going to lose. I mean, most decks can't even compete with this at all. Now that you guys seen what he can make turn 1, and again, it all pretty much just requires you to have the machine duplication. There's a lot of other ways that you can utilize stuff, and I'll get into that in a second once we go to the deck profile. But I wanted to explain what the heck he's got on board in this first turn that most decks, again, would lose. I'm going to say Secret Village is, again, icing on the cake. It's not really that necessary. However, yeah, it shuts down your opponent if you're playing triple copies of Terraforming to really utilize that field spell, the Spyral Resort, which is a pretty good card because it just lets you add a Spyral monster from your deck to your hand, which of course will be Quick Fix, which you just activate Machine Dupe. Basically, you open up Machine Dupe and you're pretty much good to go because there's other cards that search out other cards, and there's also 1-for-1 and other cards, again, which we will get into when we go to the deck profile. But basically, all you need is the machine duplication, and this is this card right here, which lets you target one machine type monster and then spell summon multiple quick fixes. This card basically makes the deck really good, and it lets you just add a Spyral gear card from your deck to your hand, which is usually going to be the big red, so lets you just, again, extend your combos. And then what's cool with this is there's a trap card, the Spyral Mission Rescue, which you actually banish to actually bust out the other double helix, which actually sets up your co-link to have Trigate Wizard be able to negate anything and banish it. So what we've got on board, guys, we have 2 copies of Spyral Sleeper. So this guy is a 2800 attacker, and then once per turn during either player's turn, you can target a Spyral card you control and up to 2 cards your opponent controls, and you get to destroy them. And then if this card is destroyed by Battle Red card effect, you destroy as many cards you control as possible, and then if you do, special summon 1 Spyral Super Agent from your hand, deck, or graveyard. Now we got double of those, and both of them are equipped with Last Resort, which makes it so the equipped monster cannot be destroyed by battle or by card effect, and they cannot target it with card effects. And there's 2 of them, alright? That's insane. And then also you can send 1 other card you control to the graveyard. The equipped monster can attack directly this turn. Now, you're probably already at this point, you've won the game. And then on top of that, you can prevent yourself from getting Rageki'd. However, Trigate Wizard, again, the thing that makes this build super strong is having, most of the time when Spyrals like did like really big plays, they didn't have this. Now again, I'll agree that like this card is icing on the cake. It's probably not going to be super like relevant to pull this card off every single time the guy opened up with it. However, there is you know, multiple copies of Terraforming, so I won't say it's never going to happen. But the most important part of the puzzle here, guys, is Trigate Wizard, which since he's co-linked with 3 monsters because of the exact placement of the monsters over here, he has 3 attachments as co-links, so once per turn when a card effect is activated, you can negate the activation and banish it. Then we have Firewall Dragon, which he can technically bounce back a card. And then also we have Eve, the World Chalice, so if something would destroy something, you could just go ahead. Well, it's if a monster this card points to would be destroyed, which is Trigate Wizard. This is the most important card over here. You can destroy this card instead. And then we have the Double Helix over here, which was actually brought out again. It's used as a kind of a stepping stone, but mostly it's brought out so we can really utilize the Trigate Wizard to give it the 3 card co-linked effects. And then again, pretty much at this point, your opponent's lost. And again, guys, it's actually not that bad to actually pull this off quite frequently, with the exception of this card, because the Spirals just search out for days, and Big Red is just such a fantastic card. But I know a lot of you guys want the deck profile, because I've heard a lot of people talk about Spyral saying the deck isn't very good. Now, what really makes it good is the link monsters, and the Spirals are allowing you to make the link monsters. So at the end of the day, it's still a Spyral deck, but I understand what some of you guys were saying, that Spirals aren't good on their own as a standalone archetype, but again, you do have some options. And like I said, if you draw too many quick fixes, we'll go over some of the cards that was in this build that Toby had. So shout out to you, man. You built a really cool Spyral deck, and I think that that's really good. Again, utilizing the 3 co-link effect of Tri-Gate Wizard is pretty much key here, guys. But anyways, let's go ahead and go over the deck profile for any of you guys that want to try out Spirals. For those of you guys that are Spyral players, let me know what you think of this deck, because I haven't seen anyone send in replays or talk about this deck. I haven't even dueled against it. I've been seeing a lot of those you guys out there playing the Exodia Beatdown deck, which it's a pretty cool thing. You're playing Exodia Links. It's a good deck. I kind of hyped it up because it was a cool deck idea. But I like this, with the exception of this. I think this is just like win harder, because with those inconsistent hands that you might get, 1 out of 10 times, like this just makes your bad hands even worse because it's not usable. But again, that turn 1 play was absolutely insane. But anyways, let's go ahead and go over the deck profile. So first off, we have the Master Plan, so it lets you add a Spyral mission card from your deck to your hand. And then we have 2 copies of the Super Agent. So this card, if it's in your hand, you can declare a card type, reveal the top card, and then if it is, you can spell summon. Basically, it's a stepping stone to make the other link monsters. And then we have the Last Resort, which makes your big boss beater, the Spyral Sleeper, even stronger over here. And then what makes everything possible is the quick fix, which you want to use machine dupe on, and we will get into, like, if you draw multiple, what to do with that in a second. And then we have the Spyral Gear Drone. So when it's normal or special, you get to look at the top 3 cards of your opponent's deck, which then lets you get to special summon the other Spyral Super Agent much easier. But then you get to place them in any order. Then during either player's turn, you trip this card, target 1 Spyral monster you control, it gains 500 attack. Then you banish this card and 1 Spyral card from your graveyard and target a Spyral Super Agent in your graveyard, and you add it to your hand, so that can really help you out again with some of the combos to go for more link extended plays. And then we have triple copies of Double Summon. So that's the first card that lets you really utilize the quick fix. And then we have 3 copies of Terraform, which will then let you get your Spyral Resort. So you can go for any key card that you need, because it really makes the Spyral archetype so good. They have some of the best searching cards in the game. I mean, this lets you add the Spyral Gear, the resort over here. It lets you add a Spyral monster, so it's just real easy to get the key combo pieces. And then you have 1-for-1, which will let you get out your quick fix or your drone. And then we have reinforcement of the army to go for the Super Agent. And then we have 3 copies of Machine Dupe, which basically gives you game. Like, this is the win condition of the deck. And when you open up with this, you pretty much win, unless your opponent is negating it somehow. Then we have Magnet Circle level 2. So this lets you special summon 1 level 2 or lower machine type monster from your hand. So again, that and double summon is what's going to allow you to go for your multiple copies of quick fix. And then we have set rotation. So this lets you set 2 field spell cards with different names from your deck. Everything else, as you guys saw, was just searchable through the other cards. But yeah, this card just lets you really quickly get to your resort, which then lets you grab your Spyral monster. And then we have double copies of Big Red, so you take to Monster Reborn, basically a Spyral from your graveyard, and then it can't be destroyed by battle. However, you can only activate 1 Spyral Gear Big Red per turn. And then we have the pseudo space to copy it, which is usually what you give your opponent, because this card doesn't let them really do anything with it. And then we have 3 copies of Spyral Resort, 1 Secret Village. I always want to say you could drop this card to even add Upstart, add more consistency to the deck if you want to go for those turn 1 plays. Now, one thing I will say though is with this particular build, when you want to go for these insane turn 1 plays, is that you do sacrifice going second, because if you go second with this deck, yeah, maybe you summon monster, gets stopped, you double sub, and you can go for your plays. But if there's back row, this deck is going to have a bad time for the most part, because you're relying very heavily on that turn 1 play. If you want to go ahead and maybe drop some cards that you might not want, For example, like this card, like I said, I think this card out of all of them, maybe you want to drop a terraforming because you have this card already. I don't know. You guys can go for it because you have triple copies of that. Maybe you can drop the Pseudo Space. It's kind of up to you on that, just to add again some more consistency to the deck. And then you would add like Twin Twisters or something like that, because sometimes you can utilize some of the cards, like for example the Spyral Mission Rescue, which you banish, and then you can get a Spyral monster from your graveyard. But it'll help out more with those going second place, because this deck does not want to go second. I mean, if you get max seed, it's over pretty much. Or you can try to wait a turn to see what happens with that. But like I said, you guys saw the play. Pretty much most decks would just fold at that point. You'd have to have like multiple copies of Regeki, and on top of that, this card would be immune because it cannot be destroyed by battle or by card effects. So again, it's a really tough thing to have your opponent break once you get set up. But Utility Wire over here just lets you target a face-up card that your opponent controls. So basically, this is like another out. Even though you have the Firewall Dragon to balance, you have the Trigate Wizard to negate anything, and then you have these two boss monsters out already. So at this point, I feel like, again, it might just be a win harder card, but technically it helps out because it's another Spiral Gear card that you can search out and make some good use of. And then again, there was the double missions over here to just bring out and extend your combos, and it lets you get out again the double Helix, which is very important for this, to get out the triple effect of Trigate Wizard, which is negate anything. But as far as the extra deck, I'll go over the cards. Most of the stuff, well, I mean, you actually can make Princess Sprite in this deck quite easily. You can make a lot of rank 1s and Spirals, again, quite easily because of like Quick Fix and Drone. But the most important cards, of course, are the Trigate Wizard, Double Helix, and then some of the other cards are kind of just stepping stones to make other things, as well as just kind of filler options in the off chance that you need to make certain things. Proxy Dragon is actually really good to just get like a decode talker out with Gofu, because right now in the TCG we technically still have multiple copies of Gofu, so this will be a really good card just to add into like any link oriented deck, because it's not like certain archetypes where it's like you can only special summon like Spirals or something like that. So it's just like a really just good solid card. Plus it's a tuner, which would allow you to go into synchro options, which can again extend some of your stuff. If you guys want to go for an even crazier build, go for it, man. I always like creativity, and I haven't seen Spirals in quite some time, and I know some people might be interested in trying out the deck themselves. So anyways, good luck to you guys if you guys are playing some Spirals. Let me know what you think of the build, because again, I haven't seen or heard anyone talk about Spirals in a few weeks, and you know, with the whole new Link card, the Double Helix, it just kind of went like under the radar. I think most people are just waiting for the ban list, because if everything else gets hit on the ban list, this might be a good deck, especially if we get some more support. Who knows? Spirals might be on their way, and I would say everything is relatively cheap as of now, so maybe it might be an okay investment. Again, it all depends on what they do to the ban list. Konami, can we get that ban list? I mean, it's getting over towards the mid-September. I'm waiting for it, man. But anyways, hopefully it'll be out soon, guys. Drop a like if you want that ban list soon. I do, man. But anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed seeing it. If you did and you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button to see more Yu-Gi-Oh videos.